We do not gather in this august house merely to debate policy, but also to reflect on whether our collective actions are improving the lived realities of the people of South Africa. From the rural hinterlands, small towns and industrial corridors of the Eastern Cape comes a clear message. When we invest in people, infrastructure and security, development becomes visible, hope becomes tangible. We are rolling out, Honorable President, the massive work in our province of building state-of-the-art schools and healthcare centers in our rural areas. We are connecting our people to service centers by revitalizing their village towns through our multi-million investment on small town revitalization program. We are steadily restoring dignity of our people as enshrined in the Bill of Rights. It is on this basis, Honorable Deputy Speaker, that we support the State of the Nation's address as a program of action to deepen opportunity, restore confidence, and advance the promise of our democracy. Honorable members, we welcome the President's announcement that the South African National Defence Force will be deployed in all areas where they are needed most. We want to see that, Mr. President, in our northern areas. We want to see that, Mr. President, Paya, Emabondomiseni,
to see that happening there in Mampondomiseni. People are busy ravaging us. Even there in Bata, the people of Eastern Cape, Honorable President, want police visibility. We are doing a great job that is being done by NIU and the RTT. There are those who are complaining, but I'm telling you, Honorable President, things are going well in Bata because of your intervention. It is showing that a great job is being done in the Eastern Cape. That province is led by ANC. And we are not going to govern Eastern Cape. We are behaving like this on my left side.
Honourable Premier, please take your seat. Honourable Member who has now raised your hand, could you please indicate the point of order that you are rising on?
Can a member take a question on his master's degree and SIU progress?
Honourable, no, that is not how it works. Honourable Premier, do you want to take the question?
No, not now. When I'm done, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
The Premier does not want to, so please proceed.
Yeah, Papa, Zero.
Let's go to parliamentary. Withdraw, please.
Honourable Premier.
Withdraw.
Our right to say.
The Speaker is right.
Honourable Premier.
Please don't obsess with me, please.
Honourable Premier, please take your seat.
The Premier is correct.
Honourable members, and I'm including the Honourable Premier here. Any comments have to be made through the Speaker. Do not engage with the members directly. And the rules are for everyone. Honourable Skosana, Premier, please take your seat. There's a point of order. What precisely is your point of order?
Ngiyathokoza mgcinihlalo iphakamisa la ngokuthi okhulumako ngaphambili uPremier akahoxise igama lokuthi honorable member ohloniphekileyo uyaphala parliamentary
Speaker, upapa nyani.
Indeed, that honorable member.
The Premier did not name anybody. Who tell law? Whose law?
Honourable members, please switch off your microphones. I have not recognised any of you. There's no one on the floor now besides the presiding officer. Honourable member, I am again cautioning everyone, including the Premier, please remain from making comments directed at the members. Honourable members, the Premier said that the Honourable Member is to forward. I will then, honourable members, I will then consult the Hansard and come back with a ruling. We will now proceed. Honourable members, that is my ruling. Honourable Premier, please proceed. Please proceed.
This is not the Eastern Cape.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Madam Speaker, for the Eastern Cape Rural Development, the rural development is both an economic necessity and moral imperative. Infrastructure investments, roads, bridges, water and connectivity are improving access to markets, reducing travel time for learners and patients, and unlocking economic activity in historical marginalized communities. Every road built narrows the distance between poverty and opportunity. Rural infrastructure is therefore not only about mobility, it is about dignity and inclusion. Work we are doing, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is in partnership with SADRAL, has turned our province into a construction site. We are doing a massive road infrastructure because we believe on what Chinese are saying, if you want to be rich, build roads. Further, the improvement on our logistics network, we are also working hard, Honourable Deputy Speaker, on ensuring that Bishop Mpembe Airport is going to be a cargo international hub. We are also attending to the huge backlog of our rural gravel roads network, and surely more support is needed there. Madam Speaker, the Eastern Cape remains the cornerstone of South Africa's manufacturing capability, with the automotive sector anchoring industrial stability and sustaining thousands of jobs. We must continue to support investment retention, supply chain resilience, and speedy conclusion of key reforms to ensure policy certainty and competitiveness, while confronting the challenge of increasing imports, finished goods. Localization, Honourable Speaker, remains essential if we are to deepen industrialization and expand employment. Eastern Cape is now feeling the experience of catastrophic effects of 30% US tariff imposition on the auto sector. But as resilient people, we shall overcome this imperialist attack. We are working hard, Honourable Speaker, on diversifying our economy. Over and above the renewable energy program, Green Shoots, we want an aggressive approach on oil and gas, particularly the shale gas exploration that is currently underway in Karoo. So we will be launching that program now in March. We are calling on an urgent implementation, Mr. President, of all the that have been pronounced here in this House in the previous zonas, like Ukuvuselela project, which we think that is key to connect Eastern Cape to Gauteng, our economic hub. Our LNG, investment in our terminal construction post to create more capacity and performance of our best performing SEZs in the country, the Koha SEZ and East London IDZ. Eastern Cape alone won't be able to reverse this challenge of historic and deliberate systemic economic exclusion of that part of the country. We need more focus and concerted effort with a more collaborative arrangement with all spheres of government. Complementing this, Mr. President, we are also working very hard with the agricultural institutions to ensure that we are actually using agriculture as an alternative in diversifying our economy. Our Department of Agriculture is working hard on that. We are also rolling up our sleeves in ensuring that we are confronting the FMT challenge. The commercial farmers in the Eastern Cape, Honourable Speaker, have been demanding from me that government must relax the regulations around this. They would want to procure the vaccine because government has delayed so much, and our fear is that this thing now is rolling out, is actually spreading like wildfire. The progress that we are making in government, in stabilizing government in our province, Honourable Speaker, now in our province, all government departments in our province are unqualified. Many of them are clean audit government departments. That includes our education and health, who are now on unqualified after so many years. We are stabilizing our province, we are focused on our province, and we are making sure that we're turning the tide around the corner. Madam Speaker, umuntu ngabantu. National progress
Person
continues
is
to
a
make a
person
measure
through
of difference in our
collaboration with
province,
other people.
strengthening services and social cohesion. Welcome emphasis on strengthening frontline human capacity through social workers and agricultural extension officers. In the province, this is complemented by the employment of over 800 early childhood development teachers alongside the recruitment of doctors and other medical professionals. These investments ensure that the developmental state is felt where it matters most, in homes, clinics, and classrooms. Honorable members, our response to malnutrition continues through targeted programs supporting children and vulnerable households. We are not going to bury our heads in the sand when we are confronting this challenging problem. Our government is investing, putting more than 35 billion for child support grant and SRD for our elderly people. Our challenge is that we need to strengthen the law. Those who are making children and leave them in the Eastern Cape and go away with grants, they must know that they are breaking the law. And then the law must follow them wherever they are. We are also responding decisively to this challenge of FMT, as I said, Mr. President. We also wish to take this time to honor the late Bishop Bolan, whose life embodied compassion, humility, and service to humanity. Honorable members, it also saddens me to report to you the passing of our late veteran, ANC veteran, who distinguished herself during times of our struggle for liberation, Umama Deborah Komos, whose lifelong commitment to the struggle leaves an enduring legacy of courage and community upliftment. Honorable members, the Eastern Cape progress is inseparable from the national trajectory. When national policy succeeds, our municipalities experience tangible improvement in opportunity, services, and hope. Our task now is to deepen implementation, strengthen accountability, and accelerate delivery so that progress is measured in everyday lives. Nation building is a collective responsibility, not a responsibility of howlers. From rural heartland to the industrial centers, we are building infrastructure, strengthening industries, as I've indicated. Let us, therefore, leave this debate with a renewed resolve to act with agency, protect the vulnerable, and unlock the full potential of our nation. Because the true measure of our work will not be the debates we hold in this house, but the dignity that we bring to our people. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fake Diploma.
Honourable members. Honourable members, business will now be suspended for 15 minutes for a comfort break. Bells will be rung to alert members to the resumption of business. Business is now suspended.
Tony.
We need the thing to fast it. We need it smooth.
Should we have this one here? Should we even have this here?
Yeah, we need that is.
Yeah. I saw it now, from here. And was it moved this part? Oh, that.
See. So we need this thing to be the.
What are we going to do? Cable ties?
Looking for actually duct tape. This is so fun duct tape. Then I can put the tape in it. Sì.
Madam Deputy Speaker.
Please be seated. Honourable members, we shall now resume the debate on the President's State of the Nation address. And I invite the Honourable Stofile.
Deputy Speaker, President welizwe lakwethu uMhlabisihlangene, Sekela Mongameli, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Chair of the NCOP, the Executive Leadership in the Cabinet, the Premiers of our province, the Chair of the House, and honorable members and different political leadership that is in this House. We greet you in this afternoon. On behalf of organized local government, in the contribution towards the State of the Nation address that has been made by the President of the Republic, which has dealt with a number of issues that our nation is pursuing and the work that lies ahead, we express our gratitude to the President for dedicating a significant portion of his address to local government, particularly in light of the considerable challenges faced by this sphere in serving our people. For citizens, government is always perceived in a manner and a way in which every day they experience governance weaknesses and the development thereof. It is perceived in a tap that flows or runs dry, a light that remains or extinguished, refuse removal that is collected or left to decay, and road that enables safe movement or hinder livelihoods. Local government is where democracy becomes tangible and where dignity is either upheld and deferred. We share the President's concern that this is not merely a municipal program. When a services fail, citizens experience a failure of the state. This year, as we all remember and be reminded by the President, we are completing 30th anniversary of our Constitution and the establishment of developmental local government, which position municipalities at the core of transformation. And it is the same year that we are celebrating the establishment of SALCO and Malachi as the founder president and other leaders that have built this organization. That promise remains valid, but it must be renewed through practical reforms, capable institutions, and sustainable funding. At the center of this conversation is the fiscal reality. Municipalities bear critical responsibilities, yet frequently lack sufficient support, rendering cooperative governance an unfunded obligation. Municipalities are expected to generate approximately 9% of their revenue internally, despite sluggish economic conditions and limited affordability in many communities. Local government is accountable for approximately 46% of the 100% constitutional assigned to different spheres of government. Yet municipalities receive only 9.5% of the total government budget. This discrepancy is unsustainable and directly undermines reliable service delivery. And this, President, is betrayed by the SALCO research that we conducted when we were putting this matter on the table. SALCO research highlights a cumulative funding gap of about 1.5 to 1.8 trillion rand, a current annual shortfall of approximately 150 billion. Municipalities are owed, and they are owing in that process. Because, President, one thing that we have not done properly in our engagement is that we, together in South Africa, when we are struggling for the country to be free, we encourage the citizens not to pay. And we have never engaged the citizen back that it is about time to pay, because if you don't pay a municipal service, you are collapsing the government. If the state expects municipality to deliver, then the state, business and society must also honor their payment obligations. And the rules must be applied consistently. Hence, integrated enforcement is essential, where, for instance, President, which we are suggesting, that, for instance, it can't be proper in a country united such as South Africa. Banks were told that they are collecting 100%. SARS is collecting 100%, and municipal space is not collecting, but we are operating in South Africa. It means there is something that we need to do differently. That includes that when a vehicle hits in a municipal pole, a poor mayor must go and steal money in the budget somewhere, and that money cannot be recovered anywhere to fix the pole that is not even budgeted. This is the issue that probably we need to look at. As SALGA, we express our appreciation, President O, for endorsing the review of the white paper, and we have been asking this for a very, very long time. Looking into your previous State of the Nation address and looking into the recent one, you gave an update, and we are really appreciative of the effect. This process is crucial, as it must address a key constraint facing municipalities at large. The current funding model of Formula, President, it is a matter that it needs to be relooked. The existing funding model is misaligned with the responsibilities of local government, limiting municipality capacity to deliver reliable services and undermining cooperative governance in practice. And the critical question here, President, is as we look into the freedom that we've achieved over the last 8 years, the question that we must answer or ponder around, how much does it cost to address or redress the imbalances of the past, of the spatial planning that we have acquired? It is important for us to look at that as we look and have engagement with regarding of the funding model of the municipalities. SALGA therefore advocates for comprehensive review that prevents performance regression, strengthens accountability, improves financial sustainability and revenue management, and mitigates the destabilizing effects. And in this process, President, we are requesting the political parties, you leaders, requesting the political parties to play their role. It's political parties that take councillors to council. There is something that is missing in the between. What is that something? And I think it's a matter that probably we need to talk about, address it as we deal with that issue, so that we avoid the governance failures. SALGA welcomes the President's prioritization of water as a national issue and the establishment of the National Water Crisis Committee. Let us explain why we are appreciating this. Which, in the State of the Nation, you said we are going to tell. We support the coordinated deployment of experts and resources because water security is inseparable from public health, local economies, and social stability. Importantly, this approach, President, gives practical meaning and effect to Section 154 of the Constitution, that the national and provincial government must support local government. And in this way, we are driving that support directed, committed into addressing the challenges, which obligates national and provincial government to do that, to manage their affairs, municipalities, in exercising their powers and perform their functions. Municipalities are struggling, President, to manage water and electricity costs that are rising above the consumer price index, compounded by aging infrastructure, increasing bulk tariff services, backlogs, climate shocks, and inconsistent support conditions that elevate the risk of systemic failures. And you can see this, President. When we did the planning of local government in South Africa, the population was standing at about 18 million. The population today is about 64 million, with an unaccounted people that have visited the country. They are using the infrastructure. And the infrastructure, therefore, is bound to collapse because it consumes more than what it was planned for. While maintenance is crucial, the growing disparity between municipal tariffs and bulk charges is leading to unfunded shortfalls that council cannot sustain indefinitely. Financial pressures can swiftly escalate into a community crisis. For instance, President, the metro of Ekurhuleni around Gauteng adjusted the electricity tariffs, including fixed charges, in response to public backlash as the public were pushing back that. While the city of Cape Town, where we are, they have tried the same. The following the introduction of the new
Your
tariffs.
time has expired. The next speaker is the Honourable Litchfield Shabalala.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I recognize His Excellency Mmalala and the MKP leadership emuva. Mr. Ramaphosa, there is a fundamental difference between diagnostic analysis and symptomatic analysis. There is no difference between ISONA and
somebody who's sick, they go to the doctor then diagnoses him so that there can be results.
What you gave us last week is based on symptomatic things Osborna in South Africa. Because if you had diagnosed
you would have known. The analysts are telling you, academic analysts,
of 2018 until now, the lost decade. And the reason why
they call it the lost decade.
The lost decade, the economy only managed to grow by 0.7% annually, meaning the economy was growing lower than the population. So in the last decade that we produced, South Africans have become more poorer. National unemployment has chronically refused to go below 30%. Youth unemployment is sitting at 46%. Now listen to this one, and I'm sure you won't howl on this one. Your last decade has produced 2.8 million chronically food insecure South Africans. It has produced 3.6 million food insecure South Africans. These are not numbers. These are people who the way
they don't call them a Dutwa. If you speak to them, they say, here we last ate on Wednesday. You find it is Friday day. There's nobody there.
There's no leadership.
There's no leadership. There's no leadership. The people who are leading, they try they can say I go and shower in a hotel when I don't have water. What is this? The minister can come here and say how many tourists have come to South Africa. We don't care about that. We want to know if you and your children partners, how many Africans.
How many formerly marginalized people can visit Eswatini? That is why your Minister of Defense deploy defense force.
He doesn't tell which defense force you are going to deploy. They don't have workwear, they don't have boots, they don't have uniform, they have to buy, they lack equipment. The Navy ships are parked in Chinatown because we don't have soldiers.
Based on symptoms.
You are telling us things based on symptoms. The analysts have said this. They said they are going to deploy the defense force. You see, one day you must look into your eyes and tell you, you're a complete failure. You're a complete failure. Go. You need to go. Go now. Because the local government elections, we are going to raise your hands. Something will happen. We are going to kick you out. We are going to vote you out. We are going to kick you out. This 126 million and this 4.6 unemployed does not even want to see you. We are going to bring them together to us. You see, if you want to see how the lack of leadership under Hosena
is described as the worst performing economy. There is deindustrialization in key sectors of manufacturing. But then again, if you diagnosed, you would have known that the neoliberalism that we are following will lead to forced industrialization.
Take over Mkondo. Take over Mkondo. There's nobody there. Take over Mkondo because there's confusion here. Take over Mkondo because... Take over Mkondo. The platform is yours.
The Honourable Sharif.
Mr. Sharif.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Mr. President, you stood before this House and the nation and paid tribute to the brave women of 1956. You reminded us of their resilience, courage, and sacrifice in shaping our country. You invoked the image of struggle heroes marching to the Union buildings with 100,000 signatures to the doorstep of a Prime Minister who, in your words, did not dare to meet them. Your portrayal of the women of 1956 reveals a stark parallel. The courage that drove their protest still mirrors the battles women fight today. 70 years later, the struggle has changed, but not its urgency. It is an injustice that decades later, women again stand at your doorstep demanding action. In 2018, the total shutdown movement led us to the Union buildings, demanding an end to gender-based violence and femicide. In 2019, we filled the streets outside Parliament. In 2021, I submitted a petition on behalf of Post Office to Parliament, calling for the creation of a National Council on GBVF. In 2023, I stood before you at the City Hall and warned that declaring GBVF a pandemic without ring-fenced budgets, proper implementation, and support for frontline workers is misleading. Yet, here we are again. In April 2025, Women for Change led us to gather at the Union buildings carrying a casket filled with 1 million signatures, drawing strength from the women of 1956. But again, you did not dare to meet us. On 21 November 2025, only after mounting pressure and on the eve of the G20, you classified GBVF a national disaster. Yet at SONA, only 6 sentences out of around 1 hour and 43 minutes address a crisis that devastates lives daily. You missed the opportunity to outline government's response to the classification of GBVF as a national disaster. While policy progress matters, South African women do not experience GBVF as a policy issue alone. It is a constant threat to their survival. Honourable members, Tutuzela care centres are intended as one-stop facilities to support survivors and strengthen prosecutions. Yet many face funding gaps, staffing shortages, weak coordination and limited accountability. DNA evidence remains backlogged, with approximately 140,000 samples outstanding in 2025. When evidence sits unprocessed, justice is delayed. Eliminating the backlog through expanded forensic capacity and effective public-private partnership is essential. But justice responses alone is not enough. Ending GBVF requires action across government and society, prioritizing prevention, early intervention, and survivor support. The Department of Social Development is central to this effort through shelters, psychosocial services, and prevention programs. Yet capacity shortages, budget pressures, and systematic failures limit its reach. Social workers carry excessive caseloads, and shelter access remains uneven. We must audit shelters, police stations, and survivor services, publish the findings, and ensure that protection systems work where they are needed the most. Mr. President, at your reply on Thursday, women of this country expect clear plans to address the DNA backlog, resourcing of TCCs, lack of social workers, lack of training of frontline workers on mandatory reporting of child sexual abuse, lack of transparent GBV crime data, and resourcing of the NSP and National GBVF Council. No more excuses. Mr. President, you cannot honor the women in history while failing them in the present. Like those brave women 70 years ago, we stand before you again and say, we shall not rest until we have won for our children their fundamental rights of freedom, justice, and security. A nation that cannot protect its women cannot claim to be free. A nation that does not prosecute perpetrators cannot claim to be just. And a nation where 15 women are killed and 117 women report rape every day cannot claim to be secure. I thank you.
Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Madam Speaker, Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable President and the Deputy President, Honorable Members. We participate in this debate on the President's 2026 State of the Nation address at a moment when our primary task is clear. It is to accelerate growth, to build our country's productive capacity and create jobs at scale. The President has called for faster and more inclusive growth driven by higher investment, increased infrastructure expenditure, trade expansion, and a broadly capable developmental state. Naturally, industrial policy is central to this program. It is through continuing industrialization that we will expand production, promote innovation, deepen localization, transform ownership, and create sustainable employment. This is the core of the ANC's economic program and the 10-point plan to reignite growth and employment. Honorable Speaker, the debate on economic growth must be anchored on the objective realities of our economy, not impressions. The President's 2026 State of the Nation address spoke about an improving but not perfect economic environment. That improvement is not a coincidence. It is visible in the data and is being driven by deliberate structural interventions to stabilize the macroeconomy, restore credibility, and defend productive capacity. South Africa has now recorded the fourth consecutive quarter of economic expansion. The latest growth forecast projects South Africa's economy to grow at between 1.3 and 1.6% in the near term, with growth expected to strengthen as improvements in energy, logistics, increased infrastructure expenditure, and new investments take effect. This is the sign of an economy that is regaining momentum. Towards the 3% goal. The shift to a 3% point target with a 1% tolerance spend lowers inflation expectations. The lowered inflation expectations are helpful when they begin to lower the cost of borrowing, which is an instrumental condition for higher fixed investment in industrial expansion. Interest rates have begun to fall for households, and the cost of government debt is also falling. South Africa's exit from the FATF raid on 24 October 2025 removed a material, reputational, and transaction cost penalty from the economy. This has helped us with the first sovereign ratings upgrade improvement in around 2 decades. Externally, the trade numbers also show resilience. South African exports have improved in 2025 despite the volatile global trading environment. The South African Revenue Services recorded a trade surplus of 21.8 billion rands in September 2025, with exports of 186.4 billion rands and imports of only 164.6 billion. Now, these are not abstract indicators. They reflect the regained capacity of the economy to earn, produce, and export. Overall, the data shows resilience even amid global shocks. Now, this data matters because it proves that when we fix network constraints in port performance, in logistics coordination, expanding market access, South African producers can expand exports even with global conditions that are volatile. This is why we say the corner is being turned, not because we simply folded our arms and wished it to, but because we have been working to stabilize fundamentals in ways that create space for growth. Now, of course, we are quite clear. Stability is not the destination. It is the platform on which we want to anchor our growth agenda. We know that to reduce unemployment meaningfully, we must lift growth to at least 3% and beyond, because below that threshold, the economy does not produce new firms at scale, and the labor market does not absorb new entrants at scale. Honorable Speaker, the global trading system is being reshaped by protectionism, unilateral measures, and supply chain competition. In that environment, South Africa's trade posture must be both defensive and expansionary. We are actively defending existing market access that sustains jobs, while diversifying into new markets and building regional value chains. Firstly, on the African continent, the data shows both progress and unrealized potential in the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Trade map data indicates that South Africa's exports to AfCFTA implementing countries was at 32.75 billion rand in 2024 and 28.19 billion in 2025, up to the end of September. Yet preferential utilization under the AfCFTA remains low. SARS data shows that from January 2024 to October 2025, South Africa's exports under AfCFTA preferences into non-SADC implementing countries were about 2.2 billion rands, with imports at 1.58 billion, yielding an AfCFTA utilization rate of 3.85%. Now, Africa is already a major market, but we are still at the early stages of using the AfCFTA preferences to scale industrial exports into new markets. The AfCFTA currently provides new market access in 13 non-SADC countries on 90% tariff coverage, while negotiations continue to finalize the remaining 10%. Our task is to drive up the utilization firm by firm, product by product, so that the AfCFTA becomes not only a trade agreement, but a platform wherein South African manufactured goods reach all corners of the continent. Honorable Speaker, we are pushing new market openings and defending existing ones. Our trade strategy is not set on announcements. It is action-oriented to defend, diversify, and industrialize through trade. Just a week ago, Minister Tau returned from China. We have an early harvest with China that is envisaged in the recently signed framework agreement of expanding duty-free access and building new export corridors for South African products into a growing market of 1.5 billion people, whilst attracting Chinese industrial technology. Passed away today, peacefully at the age of 84. Reverend Justice Jackson was a lifelong friend and dependable ally of the people of South Africa and the ANC. Reverend Jackson tirelessly championed the cause of freedom during apartheid, and up to his last day, he continued to champion the truth about democratic South Africa against hostile political opinion in America. I thank you.
Thank you. I now call upon the next speaker, the Honorable Makasini.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson of the NSOP. Greetings. It's nice to be in the new cold dome.
We are sitting in the tent. That's what the South Africans need to know. The tent you never see.
Honorable Chairperson of the NSOP, abantu baseMthatha.
People of Mthatha in KSD, President, when they were listening to your speech last week, they lost hope because ever since they have been in floods, they are affected by floods. They were put in Northwest Hall. Today they are still there in the hall. There is no change. You have forgotten about the people that you put there. You came, President, and you said you came to them and you are coming with tomorrow. They say come back and give them answers of when will they live in the halls. The people in Komans, in Pumalanga, the people in Shakuma, Tulamela, they are saying that they are waiting because they were affected by floods in 2025. To date, they are still waiting. There is nothing happening. So that do not look at the floods that happened in December. Think of them because they are still waiting for their houses. They can't live with their kids. They are in home. But President, there are kids who are graduates that we meet who are doctors. They are sitting at home, not working with their certificates. They are gathering dust. There is no hope. They are asking you politely that majority of them, you said them in China, they need replacement, they need work so that they can assist the government. The hospital are not given job. We are saying, President, as the South Africans, we've been here. Your tales, the tales must come to an end, work must be done. People want service delivery. Tales that people of Mthatha who were affected by fire, by floods 10 years ago, they are waiting for you to take them out so that they can get houses and live with their people. There is no person who can live in Mthatha for more than 20 years without MC Eastern Cape, who has been crying in the bottom comment, telling about the people that you have forgotten about in Mthatha. You told that about the story where you told that there is a child who's called Timbali who will get freedom. Today, namhlanje oTimbali are sitting with their civils, they are working. Today they are hungry at home. Today they are sitting without hope, they have lost hope, they in and out of help killed by God. If you are going to send people and forget about people who are going to school, who end up using drugs while you are there, you need to stand up.
The President also told us the story of the billion that we are going to invest in infrastructure, establishing yet another national crisis committee. Yet he never spoke about abantu abalinde amanzi.
For the people who are waiting for water, where there are no water, who should they get water? They have not given us the plan what they need to do. Those who are affected in Gauteng, they've been without water for over 7 days. You have not told the 75-year-old mother who wants to drink the medication. We are here today because they sent us, the South Africa sent us. We are not sent, we do not send ourselves. What they are saying to me is that stop giving promises. They need actions now.
Of water and sanitation is being placed under a special focus in 2025. Yet again, in 2026, kukho i-national emergency crisis yamanzi. Kodwa last year unanisixelela uba kuneplan eniyenzayo.
Kunyaka uphelele you told us if Georgina cannot work, she must leave and go back to stay. The taps are dry, people do not have water. The things that we are going is when we are going around the street is the sewer. seen the street people, children are playing with the Western President focus on fixing the municipality admitted that under we agree, President, that our mosques are not working. The thing that you are doing, President, always coming with this section, taking people who have failed in being MC and taking people who have failed to their responsibility and make them administrative. It's not helping us. Check on people who are capable to do the work.
Namasipala for the highest municipality in South Africa, also une 8 administrators since the dawn of democracy. Till today, in the service
There is nothing that is happening. There is all a problem with administration. We need you to look at these things. You cannot do Section 139 with people that you know yourself that have failed. Madwa can testify on this because they also have the same municipalities where the parties are not being paid. People are struggling, the third parties are not being paid. They pension without getting their money. And Fulani municipality, they also have the same challenge. From 2018, they were under Section 139. Why are we having such situation in our nation? Let's go to where the administrator did the report. He didn't want to issue it. The administrator, said we are waiting for Ward 11 at Gomarazi. We got 283 houses that are affected by disaster. After the report was rejected, as the committee, we got that disaster report.
It was also Ward 5 of Mpumalanga and Ward 17. Ward ST report
boards whose reports were not submitted. The fake day that you lie so much, they are quiet because they have 10 manners. They are just sitting, they are not working, just like the Deputy Minister of Water. We don't even know what they are doing. He's just eating with all that bigger. Some of our municipalities are having such a challenge. You need to make sure things are happening. We need to create committees that are going to deal with our problems, but the task force is not going to help us. President, appoint competent people, appoint people in the committees who are credible, who will give services to people who know when there is a problem with the pipe, they will have the plumber to fix that. If the electricity is not working, they know what to fix in terms of electricity so that people can help us, because our people are starving. Maybe that you are losing power in 2026. So what you are working for these many communities, you want to control municipalities. That is not going to happen. As you wish. You are not going to steal. We are going to do oversight and accountability. Thank you.
And I call upon the Honourable Minister, the Premier of the Free States. All honourable members, please take your seats so that we can continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Chairperson of National Council of Provinces, His Excellencies, Dr. Matamela, Ramaphosa, and Dr. Paul Mashatile, members of Parliament, premiers. Uthi ngiqale nje ukulungise member uSizimandisa. Into yokuqala nje uvuyele nje
First of all, I'm happy that you can recognize our president. I'm happy for that.
You know some of these issues that we are raising today about municipalities in the Free State. Main contributors,
problem that we have today, people cross the floor, they are there, that's where the problem is. They were missing because they knew that they are leaving. We are going to remind them, know who they are. Others are there, others are there. I don't think that I don't know. What I know is that they messed up and ran away.
We asked today, President, to express our support for the State of the Nation address delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa, which we regard as profoundly people-centered address that spoke to the collective aspirations, dignity, and rights of our people. On behalf of the people of the province, the President, we also wish to extend our sincere gratitude to you for attending the Men's GBVF Summit held in Bloemfontein last year. This event brought together over 5,000 men from all walks of life across the province. Your attendance, Honorable President, underscored the commitment of our government to ferociously confront gender-based violence and femicide. The moments in the life of any nation when it must pause and ask itself a simple but profound question, and I quote, are we building a future worthy of our children? Close quote. It is to this question that this honor debate is directed. Honorable Speaker, the ANC-led government resolved that ECDs must be moved from social development to basic education to achieve an integrated education system. Since the migration of the ECD function from social development, the province has refurbished and provided maintenance to 62 ECD centers throughout the province, with 13 completed in the current financial year. The province further managed to complete construction of one fully functional state-of-the-art Lido Kuhle ECD Center in Botshabelo Mangaung, with a second center currently in construction in Zaskon, Karib district. Through the Barnaby mass registration drive and awareness campaign, 222 new ECD centers were formally registered, bringing the total number of centers to 1,642 to date. This gave access to 97,540 children. Since the beginning of the 7th administration, 4 new schools have been successfully completed in the province, namely Dr. Tate Makwe Primary School, Dr. Silo Primary, Maleboho, and Tolo. In the same breath, 7 new public ordinary schools and 3 technical secondary schools are being constructed in various towns in the province to address the shortage of schools caused by rapid urbanization and population growth, as well as accommodating technical vocational stream. In addition, we completed 2 modern facilities, hostel facilities in Bloemfontein and Karibdam, expanding access to quality education for learners from undeserved communities. These are not mere structures of brick and mortar. They are theaters of social transformation. Honorable President, your administration has prioritized access to quality education for all learners. We have repurposed underutilized schools by offering multiple learning pathways leading to general education certificate, technical occupational certificate for learners with mild intellectual disability. In 2024-25 financial year, 2 schools were successfully repurposed and learners were admitted in different skills subjects, one in Mangaung and other one in Ejolipisa. Furthermore, 3 hostels for learners with special education needs are currently at different stages of construction in Transvaal, Karib district, the Boning Velkom, the Jolipusa district, and Buitumelong in Tabanchu. Siyakuba, President.
moving
In the first
forward.
academic year, 2 additional schools are earmarked for repurposing Thabo Mofokeng and First Lady. On a latter note, to my colleague in KZN, Deputy Speaker, we'd like to inform the Department of Education in KwaZulu-Natal that they should not be comfortable. Free State will reclaim its position as a top-performing province in 2026 when the Minister announced those results of the 2026 National Certificate. Siyabuya. And you are number one, but in record, you are actually not.
The record is with us.
Honourable Speaker, a society that does not train its youth facilitates its own demise. Through the Free State Training and Development Institute, the FSTI, in the office of the Premier, we have appointed 67 engineering graduates who are due to commence their graduate program on the 1st of March 2026. The graduates are drawn from the areas of electrical, civil, mechanical engineering, hydrology, construction management, urban and regional planning, and quantity survey. These young people will not only gain practical experience, they will strengthen our government and improve service delivery. Through the Plumbing Learnership Program in Q-Level, 481 learners from all corners of our province have recently qualified. 14 in Sasolburg, 22 in Welkom, 20 in Bloemfontein, 18 in Fitzburg, and 7 in Karib. This is how we localize service delivery. This is how we restore capacity. Honourable Speaker, the declaration of foot and mouth diseases and national disaster was an absolute necessity. Our province welcomes this decision. Our agricultural sector as a whole facilitates approximately 1.2 billion per annum in export of animal and animal products. Import bans have therefore dealt a severe blow to our farmers, particularly milk producers. We have adopted the principle of early detection and rapid response in investigating all suspected cases, quarantining infected farms, vaccinating livestock, and strengthening overall veterinary capacity. We have placed 136 agricultural graduates into workplace at a cost exceeding 12 million, and we have absorbed 23 community service vets into the department. Speaker, we consider the road network as strategies of our economy. It is through road network that people can meet and the economy can thrive. We have ensured that we allocate adequate resources to maintain and upgrade our roads, especially those that connect towns. In this financial year alone, our roads infrastructure program created over 3,500 jobs, recruited through a transparent public recruitment system to ensure fairness and inclusion. These are not abstract numbers, President. They represent bread on the table and dignity restored. And we shall increase this number in the years ahead. Mutsamaiso Dipuisano.
Madam Director,
When it comes to health,
and
we are grateful to the ANC for introducing a progressive policy in support of the implementation of national health insurance. This will ensure that the citizens of South Africa receive the greatest possible benefit. As the country advances towards national health insurance, our clinics and hospitals are aligning with ideal clinic and ideal hospital standards. Infrastructure upgrades and improved patient management systems are underway, which will ensure that when universal health coverage is fully realized, the Free State will not be found wanting. I'm proud to report that in the Free State, 195 out of 216 of primary healthcare facilities have attained ideal clinic status. And 16 out of the 32 hospitals have achieved an ideal status in 2025-26. Honourable Speaker, to ensure that all citizens receive government services, the Office of the Premier utilizes integrated service programs to reach rural and underserved communities. This initiative brings together a variety of government entities department, including SASA, IC, SAPS, Health, Home Affairs, etc. Rea Koba, Retsualona, Abo, Maswale Mame, Mandisa, recently new services, War 23 in Machare, just last week.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Premier.
Bye.
House Chair.
And I call upon the
House Chair.
Honorable Member from
House Chair, the
ICN.
Premier speaks to members and just calls them Mandisa. We are not in the backyard in Welcome or something. She's Honorable Mandisa. Can she please come back there and call our...
No, sorry.
No, Chair, she's out of order.
Time has expired. She cannot come back. I now call upon the next
It's your fault
speaker,
because you're
Honorable
not even
Farid.
listening.
Thank you, House Chair. Mr. President, Deputy President, Honorable Speaker, and all of my colleagues.
Chair.
Mr. President.
Farid, can you take your seat, please?
Chair, to put this house into order. You know, if people are used to permanently staying in taverns and they address each other like that, we are not part of that.
Thank you, Honorable Malema. Honorable Farid.
Thank you, House Chair. Mr. President, many things were said in your speech at the SONA, but I'm going to focus on the most pressing thing for my community. You mentioned the bullet train that you want to build, but you spoke very little about the bullets lying in our streets. We understand that for the last 30 years, the colored people have been taken for a ride by this ANC. It is the ANC that took away our quotas as fishermen and handed them to people in Joburg where there are no seas. When you turned our fathers and our sons into poachers. It is the ANC that closed the factories in Woodstock, Saltwater and Observatory and turned our mothers, the finest seamstresses in the world, into nothing. It is the ANC that allowed foreign nationals to take over the construction business.
Farid, can you take the seat, please? There's a point of order. Honorable Member.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, niemand ik wil net vragen, je hebt net zo 5 minuten om die time te krijgen, alsjeblieft.
No, that's not a point of order.
That is not a point of order.
That is not a point of order. Continue, Honorable Farid.
Ik heb ons hier gekomen als gebouwwerker, maar niet als MP. Je moet niet eruit vergeten. Not all of us forget where we come from, leader. It is the ANC that has turned our sons into what they are. It is the ANC that allowed 27,000 guns to be pumped into our ghetto by the South African Police Services and then classified the report. And now, Honorable President, what do you want to give us to make our community safer? You want to give us the army. We've been begging you for an army, Mr. President. We asked for an army of social workers and skills developers and teachers and football coaches. We don't need more guns. If this is all you have to offer, then it is a sad story indeed. Mr. President, my community is dying for development. Our children are dying for lack of opportunity. Our children are not involved in the tertiary education system. But you're going to give us more guns. You're going to normalize firearms, weapons, soldiers. Our community is a community in trauma. We beg, Mr. President, we will beg no more. We have asked for fairness. You gave us QBE. We've asked for jobs. You put us out of the system. Come into the Cape Flats and see our foreign nationals, undocumented foreign nationals and their children occupy the school spaces while colored children sit in street corners. Mr. President, you are the reason, and this ANC is the reason why the colored community sent an animal like me to come and back for them. Let me warn you, Mr. President, they asked me to be a pit bull. I'm only one as a biter. Ask Gaten to translate that for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. And now call upon Honorable Reddy.
His Excellency,
the People's President, Jacob Zuma, Deputy President Tony Ngeni, leadership of the MK Party, and all protocol observed. How do you tell 8 million unemployed South Africans that the economy is improving? Just think about that. How do you tell 6 out of 10 young people with no job that this is recovery? How do you tell matriculants who passed but cannot secure university space that this is progress? Let's be honest. The last time a university was built in this country was when President Zuma was the head of state. Because, friends, honorable members, the reality does not live in percentages. It lives in households. The MK Party will prioritize industrial expansion, infrastructure-led growth, and state-supported manufacturing to create real, permanent jobs, not temporary statistics like we've been hearing here today. You know, the former DA or outgoing DA leader, John Steenhuisen, he described the past 8 years under Mr. Ramaphosa as being the most disastrous years. Today, he comes here together with the other GNU parties. They praise the so-called GNU. So what changed? The country or the coalition? Now, I want South Africans to know the truth today, because the lived reality that you go through every day is not what you're hearing from these GNU parties. They're saying the things they're saying today because of the perks, the blue lights, and all the fanfare that comes with these positions. I mean, you heard one of the ministers. He came and he said, I'm in this because I love the blue lights. Openly declared that. And today when they come and tell you that South Africa has improved, let me tell you, mothers that are crying out there, children that have no job, they are spitting on your face. Because what you are saying is far from reality. You know, MK Party, we will never trade our mandate for positions. We could have done this. President Zuma could have agreed to join the so-called GNU. And we could have all been having positions today. But we are a party of principles. And we want our voters to know that. When it comes to the local government elections, don't vote for sellout parties, because they're going to sell you out. You talk about 46,000 jobs in the third quarter and 34,000 in the fourth quarter. South Africa has 8 million unemployed people. What's 80,000 jobs against 8 million unemployed people? Youth unemployment, 6 out of 10. This is structural failure. The MK Party will implement a national youth public works and technical skills program. We're not going to create jobs that's temporary, that just last for a month or 6 months like EPWP jobs. We want permanent jobs. But listen to me carefully. The best is yet to come. You know, we've been hearing about water. And I want to tell you about water. South Africa is not running out of water. We are running out of management. Johannesburg residents in Soweto, in Brixton, in Westbury, and in a township called, there's a township in Asia South. They haven't had water for 2 years, 20,000 residents. And we make a big noise when people in Sandton are complaining. But the reality is that there are townships and rural areas that have not had a single drop of water in their taps for the past 2 years. And we as MK, we're on the ground. We see this every single day. In eThekwini, in Phoenix, in Chatsworth, Anazi, prolonged disruptions, Hammanskraal, Giyani. Billions were spent, and yet the projects are not complete. We have enough bog water in our dams, but the problem is governance. The problem, Mr. Ramaphosa, is accountability. You know, more than half of planned maintenance remains incomplete. Now this is neglect. I want to share something with you. In March,
Your time has expired. Thank you. And I call
vote
upon
MK in the local
Honorable
government
Cameron.
elections.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, crime has become a tax on dignity, opportunity and freedom. It's a mother who prays a child returns safely from school. It's a small business owner that fearfully locks up their shop before sunset. It's the commuter who clutches the phone like a lifeline. South Africans are tired of emboldened criminals and betrayed when those criminals sit within the state itself. The President announced the deployment of the SADF to assist in gang-ridden areas, specifically in Cape Town, parts of Gauteng, and today we heard in the Eastern Cape too. Where violence has reached intolerable levels, short-term stabilization is obviously justified. Communities under siege deserve some relief. But stabilization is not a strategy. The SADF can assist with area control, but they cannot replace the investigative and forensic and intelligence functions of the South African Police Service or the DPCI. They cannot dismantle drug cartels. They cannot build racketeering cases, trace illicit firearms across multiple crime scenes, or secure sustainable convictions against organized criminal leadership. Which brings us to a reform that some in the ANC continue to resist, expanding policing powers to competent local and provincial governments. Where operational competence exists, it must be enabled and not obstructed. Where other spheres of government offer to help save lives, we must work together. Consider this. Enhanced forensic and ballistic capabilities within the City of Cape Town Metro Police, particularly in gang-related shootings, could be a total game changer. Rapid ballistic tracing, fully integrated with national systems, would allow cases to be linked more quickly, track the repeated use of illicit firearms, and link cases faster and strengthen prosecutions, effectively amplifying the impact of the existing South African Police Service resources. If reform measurably improves safety and saves lives, why would we block it? We must ask ourselves today, is this about politics or is it about the people? Because South Africans are not interested in turf battles between spheres of government, they are interested in getting home alive. Our police officers are often under-resourced, overstretched, and placed in impossible conditions. Communities feel abandoned and criminal networks exploit systemic weakness with ruthless efficiency. Imagine SAPS pleading for dogs to be donated while failing to even properly feed police members sent for canine training at the Roodeplaat Academy. Yet the same SAPS supply chain division could pay the likes of Kat Mklala to corrupt supply chain commanders and processors. In fact, the Divisional Commissioner of Supply Chain Management in the South African Police Service is still in his position. In most cases, the men and women in the South African Police Service on the ground are not their enemy. They are also often victims of poor leadership, corruption above them, and of a system that too often fails to protect those who try to protect us. Allegations of collusion and corruption remain unresolved. Even the Deputy President's protection thugs were allowed to stay in the South African Police Service after having earned that name, the Blue Light Mafia, when they violently attacked innocent civilians for no reason. The Malanga Commission is welcome, but South Africans have grown weary of commissions without consequences, reports without dismissals, findings without prosecutions, truth without accountability, if wrongdoing is exposed but not punished. And let us not forget the cost borne by whistleblowers and witnesses, individuals who risk not only their careers but their lives, often with inadequate protection. Then, honourable members, there was one last commentary suggesting tighter controls on lawful firearm ownership. And let's be clear, law-abiding licensed firearm owners are not the drivers of organised crime. Criminal syndicates are armed through illicit trafficking, diversion and corruption, and they are very rarely lawful owners of firearms. Disarming the compliant while illegal firearms flood our communities is neither rational nor just, and lawfully armed citizens are assets to communities. They are responsible individuals who comply with the law while protecting themselves and their families. We will fight any attempt to disarm law-abiding citizens while illegal firearms continue to flood our communities. In closing, history has taught us that any state that disarmed law-abiding citizens does so not for safety, but for ultimate control of the populace, even tyranny. I thank you.
Thank you. I now call upon the Honourable Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, the Honourable 18 Tuli. Thank you, Honourable Members. Let's allow the Honourable Premier to speak.
Thank you, Deputy Chair of NCOP, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the President of the Republic of South Africa, the Deputy President, honourable members, fellow South Africans. I rise on behalf of the people of KwaZulu-Natal to contribute to this important debate of the 2026 State of the Nation Address. Indeed, South Africa is turning the corner. Indeed, we have witnessed the stabilization of our energy supply, renewed economic momentum, unlocking of infrastructure investment, and a gradual return of investor confidence. The Government of National Unity has demonstrated that cooperation, when anchored in constitutional values and national interest, is both powerful and persuasive in confronting the socio-economic challenges facing our country. The performance of 90.6% by the KwaZulu-Natal 2025 class of matric is one more evidence of the positive direction for South Africa. KwaZulu-Natal welcomes this new charter. We understand that political cohesion is not an abstract ideal. It is a practical instrument for service delivery, economic reform, and the implementation of a government medium-term development plan. But turning a corner is meaningful only if we now move forward with agency, discipline, and unity of purpose. For KwaZulu-Natal, the message of the State of the Nation Address is clear. Implementation is now the defining task of leadership. We must lead from the front. We must deliver and deliver effectively. KwaZulu-Natal is not made another province. It is a strategic economic pillar of South Africa. We are the country's logistic gateway, home to the busiest port of the African continent. We are a manufacturing hub serving regional markets, a province endowed with a fertile agricultural land, globally competitive tourism assets, and a youthful population eager to participate in the economy. Ingakho nje njengohulumeni waKwaZulu-Natal,
why is the government of KwaZulu-Natal in I have visited some beneficiaries where one was awarded some money to where
babiyela 3 kilometers weplaza ngoba KwaZulu-Natal
because we are prioritizing the youth in our programs of improving their lives.
Have delivered job opportunities for the others. The bottleneck which was experienced in the port of Durban was resolved after the introduction of motor boats and new monster cranes. When KwaZulu-Natal grows, South Africa grows. The President's announcement of expanded public-private partnership in ports and rail including the modernization of Durban's container terminal, marks a decisive structural reform. This is not incremental change. It is a foundational to reshaping our economic outlook. As the government of crucial unity, we will move decisively to support this reform agenda. It is imperative that Transnet municipalities, business and labor align their efforts to unblock logistical bottlenecks, accelerate freight rail recovery, and integrate land use planning around strategic logistics corridors. Our objective is clear: to restore Durban to world-class operational efficiency and reposition KwaZulu-Natal as the preferred gateway to South Africa trade.
Sorry, Honourable Speaker, will the outgoing Premier of KZN be prepared to take the question?
Honourable Premier, would you...
Change. I will answer the question after a decision, not now. The announcement of over 1 trillion in public infrastructure investment over the next 3 years represent a historic opportunity. Already KwaZulu-Natal is a construction site. Our N3, N2 with some of the provincial and local roads are under construction. We are prioritizing the rehabilitation of roads and bridges following flood damage, water and wastewater upgrades across the eThekwini and rural districts, revitalization of industrial parks, renewable energy infrastructure and digital connectivity in township and rural economies is on the agenda. The establishment of the Provincial Investment Office within the Office of the Premier is central to this effort. Our message to investors is unequivocal. KwaZulu-Natal is open for business and government will operate at the speed of opportunity. Honourable members, I agree with my leader of the IFP, Honourable Frank Kosini Etabisa, that the President of our country correctly identified water security as a national crisis, which is indeed a crisis. In KwaZulu-Natal, water insecurity threatens households, agriculture, tourism, and industrial productivity. We therefore fully support the establishment of the National Water Crisis Committee and welcome decisive intervention where municipalities fail to perform. We have seen the good benefit of such interventions, such as the Presidential eThekwini Working Group, which is quite effective. We are working closely with national government to ensure that every rand allocated to water infrastructure results in reliable access to clean water for our communities. Equally so, we confront the challenge of organized crime, including construction, extortion, and port-related syndicates, which have undermined investment and growth. We welcome the President's firm stance on dismantling a crime network. In KwaZulu-Natal, coordination between the South African Police Service, Metro Police, community safety structures, intelligence structures, and the private sector have been intensified. The outcome of such is that crime stats is showing decrease on quarterly basis in KwaZulu-Natal. My mentor, the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, made a call for the need to protect women and children from GBV plus F. I also welcome the declaration of gender-based violence and femicide as a state of national disaster. All of
us as men must rise up because this GBV issue has become out of control. Women are
Our
safe.
rural economy remains central to inclusive growth. Tourism remains a key growth lever. We are strengthening safety in tourism nodes, expanding destination markets, and promoting township and cultural tourism. Every visitor sustains livelihoods. Every event stimulates local enterprise. In 2025, we have realized significant increase in both local and international tourists visiting our province. Madam Speaker, Deputy Chair of NCOP, we welcome expanded agricultural finance, strengthened extension services, and the national response to foot and mouth disease. KwaZulu-Natal remains the epicenter of the foot and mouth disease outbreak. This outbreak threatens both commercial and communal farmers. We welcome the decisive intervention committing to a nationwide vaccination drive. This bold, coordinated response signals government's response to safeguard our agricultural sector, protect jobs, and restore confidence in our livestock industry. Honorable Speaker, our greatest asset is our young people. The focus on TVET reform, workplace learning, and expanded employment program speaks directly to our provincial priorities. We are forging provincial skills compacts with the private sector in logistics, energy, construction, and the digital economy. The revelation by State SA that KwaZulu-Natal achieved 54,000 new job opportunities is a record of progress. Fellow South Africans, Honorable Deputy Chair of the NCOP, KwaZulu-Natal stands ready to move from recovery to accelerated growth, ready to contribute decisively to building a stronger, safer, and more prosperous South Africa. Let us seize this moment with courage, with unity, and with unwavering commitment to our people as we continue to lead KwaZulu-Natal until 2029. Thank you, Deputy National Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. I now call upon the Honorable Minister of Land Reform. Thank you, Honorable Members. Thank you.
House Chairperson, Mr. President, we in the PAC of Azania reckon that you have hit the nail on the head when you said in your speech that our strength as a people comes from our natural endowment. The potential to release this strength lies in the unity of the opposites and the ability to hold hands together as African patriots. And you also pointed out many small and medium businesses, particularly those owned by black farmers, women, and young people, still struggle to gain access to the requisite funding, resources, and markets. The role of land redistribution in this context continues to be of critical importance. We are also in full support of your decision to deploy members of the South African National Defence Force to contribute to the fight against crime in parts of Western Cape and Gauteng, and now Eastern Cape as announced by the Minister of Police. This is a clear message that there will be no surrender to the criminals and that the fight against crime will continue unabated until this scourge is finally defeated. Mr. President, the legislation we are currently working on, namely the Equitable Access to Land Bill and the Communal Land Tenure and Administration Bill, both of which aim to respond to a major call in our Constitution, also aligns with the President's vision of a state that works for the people. In our specific case, we aim to do this by speeding up the equitable redistribution of land, ensuring its productive use and guaranteed security of tenure. The vision and commitment that we have articulated around the need to invest significantly in infrastructure also accords with this responsibility. Mr. President, the resolution of the issue of communal land tenure is firmly aligned to the call that we have made for a differentiated approach to municipal powers and the need for structured cooperation between municipalities and the institution of traditional leaders. The devastating outbreak of foot and mouth disease is not just an agricultural crisis. It is a rural crisis in a broader sense, as it threatens the livelihoods not only of established commercial farmers, but also and equally significantly those of communal and emergent farmers. It will therefore be critical that our department works closely with the Department of Agriculture to ensure that the most remote communal farmers also gain access to vaccines. Mr. President, your announcement of the allocation of 500 million to Phase 4 of the District 6 construction project is a testament to our country's resolve to redress the past injustice of land dispossession. It would be remiss of us, though, if we were not to re-emphasize the need for more adequate financial support for the restitution program in order to ensure its continuing national impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. We now go on to the next speaker, and that is the Honourable Brett.
Dankie, Adjunk, Voorzitter. Mr. President, you spoke at length about municipalities and the critical role that they are supposed to play in the lives of every South African. You announced a 54 billion rand incentive for metro municipalities to reform water, sanitation and electricity services. You spoke about improving service delivery and about consequences for failures and about ensuring that senior officials are qualified and appointed through an independent process free from political interference. Now, sir, please forgive me if I do not jump for joy. This is the third SONA debate of this term in which I am participating, and the third time we are hearing this. En as ek dood eerlik moet wees, meneer die president, om nou in 2026 aan te kondig dat munisipaliteite die wet moet gehoorsaam, gekwalifiseerde amptenare moet aangestel word en daar gevolge sal wees indien hulle dit nie doen nie, is buiten dat het voorhand liggend is, te min, te laat. Last year, after the release of the 2023-24 municipal audit outcomes, the Auditor General made it clear local government remains in a dire state. As of May 2025, 83% of municipalities were violating key financial legislation. Irregular expenditure stood at 87 billion rand, and only 3% of municipal assets are allocated for maintenance. And municipalities collectively owe 55 billion rand to Eskom and 21.2 billion rand to water boards. Akbare President, u sê dat mechanismes sal versterk word sodat nasionale regering vinniger kan ingryp daar waar munisipaliteite val. Maar dit is weg. Ons sien dat dit tans enigste werk. In Noordwes is 40% van munisipaliteite reeds onder provinsiale administrasie. En in KwaZulu-Natal en Vrystaat lyk dit beter nie. Inteendeel, in baie gevalle lyk dit slegter na die ingryping. Gedurende my tyd hier in NRW het binne munisipaliteite gesien wat eintlik onder administrasie uitkom. Ek het baie gesien wat onder administrasie Ek myself in 'n metro wat onder nasionale administrasie geplaas is. En meneer president, as hier sogenaamde oplossing is, dan is die prentjie uiters donker. The Freedom Fund has said for many years, and reports have repeatedly confirmed this, the centralization of power and forced amalgamation of towns into massive new municipalities does not work. The late Mr. Pravin Gordhan released a Back to Basics report in 2014, and one of the key findings echoes exactly what we have been saying all along. Big, multi-town municipalities fail because service delivery cannot reach the outer limits. Municipalities must be smaller, with fewer towns, and ideally one town per municipality. We do not need to reinvent the wheel, also net begin implementeer.
We have to start to implement what we have.
Mr. President, we are told to welcome the establishment of the National Water Crisis Committee. Forgive my lack of enthusiasm. Yet another committee, yet another failure we are addressing. I vividly remember the task team set up to deal with the municipal Eskom debts. The answers were vague, shoulders were shrugged, and accountability was nowhere to be found. But it is a new year, so we can only hope. Adjunk, voorzitter,
Chairperson, allow me to move away from municipalities.
nou iets te
And
kijken
to
wat
look at
die
something
economie tans knieholte
that is now
back
to
in
the detriment
West-Rand.
of the economy.
Dit is skandaleus
That is
dat
food
hierdie
and our
siekte
disease.
toegelaat is om tot
It's
die
a shame
nasionale
that
ramp
this
te
disease
eskaleer.
escalated so
Boere het
to a national
landbouproductie
disaster.
spoedig
Farmers
optrede
were warning
talle
that
maande gelede
you must act
daar moes
quickly
reeds
and a
multidisciplinêre
multidisciplinary coordinated action plan should have been in place by now.
Agriculture is one of the most
Land.
important drivers of our economy. The livestock sector alone contributes over 40% of agricultural output and generated more than 172 billion rand in the 2022 financial year. We cannot afford indecision and delays anymore. Ons het nie mooi praatjies en leerloftes nodig nie. Ons het nou aksie
We need
nodig.
action and we need
Daar moet
now.
daadwerklik opgetree
There must
word
be action
om ons landbou te beskerm,
to
ons
protect
landbouers te
our
ondersteun
agriculture
en
and
krisis as
support
ware
the
soos wil
farmers
by die horings te
and
pak.
to tackle this
In closing,
crisis.
Deputy Chairperson, I want to remind the House of the words engraved at the entrance of the University of the Free State Agricultural Faculty that bodes even more true today. 'n Land wat vir sy boere sorg,
A country that
sorg
looks after
vir
the
sy
farmers
toekoms. Ek
will
dank u.
look after its future. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Breed. We now move on to the next speaker, and that is Honourable Swart.
Honourable Speaker, Honourable President, Honourable Members, fellow South Africans, good evening. Last week, the President spoke about the country that is beginning to recover. The question, Mr. President, is whether we can translate economic recovery into lived experience on the ground, into jobs that last, safer streets, working municipalities, and a state that delivers value for every rand that taxpayers contribute. Honourable Speaker, when there is progress, it must be recognized. If we want to rebuild trust in our public institutions and restore confidence in our economy, we must be honest about what is improving and equally honest about what still blocks recovery from reaching ordinary families on the ground. Ons sien, afbare president,
We see, Honourable
geloofwaardige teken dat
signs
Suid-Afrika se
that
finansiële
South
posisie
Africa's
besig
financial
is om te
position
stabiliseer.
is busy
Ons sien
stabilizing.
verbeterde vertroue
We see
en 'n
better
meer
trust
positiewe
and a more
markreaksie
positive
op ons
market
fiskale
reaction on
projek.
our fiscal
Ondanks
trajectory.
was berigte dat die effekte
We see
opbrengste
that
die
there is
laagste
better-
vlakke
The lowest
dekade
increase
bereik het.
in decades were
In
reached.
eenvoudige terme
In
beteken
easy
dit dat die
terms,
land
it means
teen
that
goedkope
the
koerse as
can
voorheen kan leen.
borrow money at
Maar
lower
die druk
rates,
op die fiscus
and that will
verminder
take the
en
pressure
langtermyn
off the
las
fiscus and the
van
long-term
skulddienskoste verlaag.
to the debt
Elke
was
rand
being
wat ons
lowered.
aan rente
Every
bestee,
hand that
is
we
'n rand
spend
wat
on
ons nie
interest
kan
is a hand
aanwend
that we
om
cannot use
waterstelsels
to
reg te
improve
stel nie,
water systems.
paaie te herstel nie, polisieering te verbeter nie, of 'n infrastruktuur te belê, want werksgeleenthede skep nie afbare bestem. So yes, Honourable Speaker, there are encouraging indicators, but as members of Parliament, our duty is to ask the harder follow-up questions. Will this recovery be felt in places like Beaufort West, in places in my hometown like Elim, in other rural villages, in townships, and in studying towns? Will this be felt by the young person who has sent out 50 CVs and received silence? Will it be felt by the pensioner whose municipal bills keep rising while the taps run dry and streets are unsafe? That is why we want to focus on the economic recovery road in a practical way. The GNU is not just a political arrangement. It is a message to the country that there is an alternative to paralysis and that cooperation can produce stability. In an election year, it is easy for people to retreat into slogans and blame. But South Africans want leaders who can build, leaders who can fix. They want adults at the table who can bring discipline back into the state, restore credibility, and deliver results. One of the important reasons confidence has improved is that there is visible evidence of constructive cooperation in the economic cluster. The working relationship between Deputy Minister Asher Surban, Deputy Minister David Pasongu, and Minister Enoch Barangwana sends a strong signal that fiscal responsibility and reform can be advanced through collaboration, not chaos. That relationship matters because markets, investors, and ordinary citizens respond to stability. Competence and consistency, what we need and what we are beginning to see is more united focus on stabilization, reform, and recovery. However, Honourable Chairperson, we must not confuse stabilization with prosperity. Stabilizing debt and lowering borrowing costs are necessary conditions for recovery, but they are not sufficient, Mr. President. The economy will only recover when growth is stronger enough to absorb our unemployment, when investment flows into productive sectors, and when people can build a life through work, not through survival. Ons benodige ekonomie wat inspanning, talent en entrepreneurskap loon. Afbare president, ons benodige staat wat belastingbetalers en geld beskerm as dit so afspreek en eie begroting is. Ons benodige staatsdienst wat grond van bevoegdheid aanstel, nie op grond van loyaliteit nie. En ons benodige plaaslike regeringssaam wat functioneer. Wat sonder werkende municipaliteite bly nasionale ekonomie mense leef in dorpe, leef in wijken en leef in gemeenschappen. En die municipaliteit nie verandering kan voorsien. Kaaie kan word, snake kan street and keep the street lights en finansies eerder kan bestuur. Finances verleggers, investors will withdraw and small businesses will close and the youth loses hope in This is why
Africa.
we as a DA want to be very firm on corruption, particularly on municipal level. If we are serious about economic recovery in South Africa, corruption must become expensive, Honourable President, not inconvenient. Not something that results in a transfer, a suspension on full pay, or a quiet redeployment. It must become expensive. That is the only language that criminals understand. Arrests, prosecutions, convictions, blacklisting, and asset recovery. We must recover stolen funds. We must remove the gatekeepers who treat municipalities like cash machines. We want to see municipal supply chain systems that are transparent and protected from political interference. And we want to see senior officials who are repeatedly involved in irregular expenditure lose their positions, not get promoted. If the GNU is serious about the financial recovery road, it must become a recovery road for integrity too. And linked to corruption is crime. Because crime is not only a safety issue, Mr. President, crime is an economic issue. Crime destroys investment and tourism. It destroys small businesses. It raises the cost of doing business. It turns whole neighborhoods into fear zones. If we want financial recovery to be felt on the ground, then safety must be treated as an economic priority. Mr. President, we cannot claim progress when communities live behind burglar bars and businesses spend their profits on private security instead of expansion. Mr. President, We also must confront the hard political truth if we want growth in this country. The policies that shape our labour market and our investment climate must be modernized. The DA has been clear. BEE is currently designed as failed, and the very people that was meant to be empowered. It has to often become a barrier to entry for small entrepreneurs, a tool for connected elites, and a mechanism that rewards ownership deals rather than real participation, real skills, real jobs, and real growth. We want empowerment that expands opportunity for millions, not enrichment for a few. We want the state, Mr. President, to support broad-based participation through better education, skills, and entrepreneurship, and not through policies that shrink the economy and left fight over the remaining crumbs. En dit ons wil hê dat die werklike lewensgevaar van mense moet ons verder beweeg as blote simboliese nakoming en fokus op dat mense bemagtig. Funksionele skole, vaardighede, wat die arbeidsmarktbeleiders, omgewing waar mense kan groei en infrastructure en staat as skole en distributors upon President. Chairperson, I want to come back to the recovery signals that we're seeing because they give us a window of opportunity. Falling bond yields and cheaper borrowing costs
Thank you very much, Honourable Swart. Your time has expired. Thank you. The next member to participate is Honourable Deputy Minister of Employment and Labour.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, the President of the Republic and the Deputy President. Mr. President, in the State of the Nation address, you have centered the Department of Employment and Labour's mandate to regulate the labour market and drive inclusive growth. It is therefore our singular focus to implement the President's directive to bolster enforcement and prioritize local employment. Inkulumo yakho Mongameli. Izwenile abantu abaningi bayamkelile bayithakasela ngoba
we had it because we spoke of things that affect the people, and they saw that the President hears their cry and is coming with solutions to resolve their issues. We thank you for that, Honourable President.
Economic integration is coupled with decent work, labour mobility, and employment creation. We therefore ensure the following: fully implement the National Labour Migration Policy, which provides a framework for managing the movement of workers across borders in an orderly and predictable manner. This aim is to balance the attraction of critical skills needed for the industrial growth with the protection of job opportunities for South Africans. This is very critical at the current time in South Africa.
Ensure that the businesses produce what is supposed to work hard as this unit, where we will give support to our small businesses and big businesses so they can produce and make to have especially
automotive sector and agro-processing to strengthen South Africa's industrial base. Mr. President, South Africa is where it is made.
Independent. South Africa is an independent country. It has mothers and fathers who are proud to be South Africans. We are generations of Oliver Tambo, Lilian Boy, Mama was first, Sasol, Police, Shabani, Paranboy, Dan, Moses Mabida, Winnie Mandela, and others. They taught us that the freedom that we got is freedom that we fought for, and some people were arrested we are in the struggle of relieving the people of South Africa. Therefore, the principles that we put should be able to take care of our borders.
The rights of South Africans and all who are within our borders. We therefore owe it to them to ensure that we not the decade that others are saying 8 years is a decade. 8 years is not a decade. We must know that decade is 10 years. This shows us a good performance of mainly JSE listed companies. This is good. This is good news for the economy. 1965, at the founding of African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, Amilcar Cabral in the party directive made the famous quote, "Tell no lies, claim no easy victory," and we are not going to do that. We are not intending to do that, President. President, you spoke at length when we were delivering the SONA. You made a groundbreaking announcement since 1994 of 10,000 inspectors that are going to be employed in the Department of Employment and Labor. It has never been done since 1994, and it's done by you, President. We are going to ensure as the department the strategic use of President's announcement of 10,000 additional labor inspectors. The additional capacity will assist in improving 300,000 workplace visits annually to about 1.6 million inspections, President. This is how far your intervention is going to go. But further to that, over 16.8 million people in the country will have their work environments and employment conditions improved. We'll also improve on the 150 million that is recovered annually in the form of penalties, fines, underpayments, and failure to register workers for social protection. Annually, currently, the department is able to return over 70 million rands directly to exploited workers back to their pockets from recovered illegal deductions and underpayment. This is really funds that average between 5,000 and 10,000. We are therefore working hard to ensure that the 10,000 inspectors are on the ground without delay, as it will increase the department's reach from the current 2,300 inspectors to 10,000 inspectors, which will make 12,300 inspectors. But maybe in passing, we must say it, one day as this House will have to answer to a crime that we are committing. Allowing ourselves to be abused by the cult, allow the cult to sit amongst us and allow them to abuse us day in, day out to hours. I think it's wrong and we shouldn't allow that. Others come here, they are claiming that they are going to win elections, but they have very, very disturbing concepts where they want us to vote using drums, nemgomo and everything. What is that? What kind of leadership is that? Then you start to understand the challenges that we are faced with as the country. But I want to say to Honorable Zungula, the ANC doesn't hate black people. It's the very same ANC that has built houses, that has given black South Africans electricity, that have built roads, that have built houses for them, that has given them water, giving young people who are going to tertiary institutions NSFAS for free. They start from the basic education up until tertiary education without paying a cent.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your time has expired.
Through this president and the African National Congress. Thank you very much, sir.
The time has expired. Honorable Reddy.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The rules are very clear that speakers must not mislead the House. The ANC has not given water, it's taking away water.
Thank you very much. That's a debatable point. I now call upon the next honorable member, and that is the Honorable Dlamini.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Allow me to stand on the protocol already established by the speakers who came before me. Honorable President, the State of the Nation address you delivered a few days ago was not an ordinary address. It was a resounding account that echoes a message of optimism and renewed hope in our economic trajectory in the context of volatile global economic climate. South Africa stands at the dawn of a new era because of the decisive interventions that place the economy on a path of recovery despite multiple external pressures, shocks, and setbacks. Honorable President, as you note emphatically that our economy is growing again, and this growth is gathering pace. To support this assertion, the SONA highlights the key indicators of sustained growth, stability, and recovery. In terms of the economic outlook, international bodies, not least the International Monetary Fund, increased its focus for South Africa for 1.2% to 1.4% for 2026. And this trend is set to increase in 2027. These are the economic figures and the reality that the country is facing. The World Bank also issued an improved 2026 projection of South Africa gross domestic growth by 0.3% points to 1.4% and to 1.5% next year. President, kuyaqhuzwa, kuyasetshenzwa. These are the hard reality economic facts and figures, not fictions. Yes, this is remarkable, but it is by no means adequate to significantly tackle poverty, unemployment, and inequality. However, we must build on the momentum to take our economy and our country to the greater heights. Under your leadership, President Cyril Ramaphosa, this is possible. Bommele bontate, bahlomphehi ba rona matona, le batlatsa matona ba sebetsang le ntate Ramaphosa, re a le bona, mesebetsi e a bonahala. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, the objective of speeding up economic transformation, inclusive growth and job creation remains a fundamental strategic imperative of the African National Congress, as clearly outlined and articulated in the January 8th statement of this year. This strategic imperative is aligned with the key priorities contained in the Medium-Term Development Plan, which elevates inclusive economic growth and job creation. The main drivers of sustainable economic growth include a vibrant, productive industrial base. Therefore, the investments in the manufacturing value chain remain an integral part of the accelerating economic development. Emphasis is firmly placed on reindustrialization, aggressive infrastructure investment, energy security, and localization. These are hallmarks of the economic recovery, which has been meticulously driven by His Excellency Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa and His Excellency Deputy President Paul Mashatile. Our country is indeed on a path of recovery, and the days of economic stagnation due to major bindings, constraints in energy and logistics, as well as low investor confidence are receding. Major improvements in the electricity supply and logistics, such as Transnet as a state-owned entity, are expected to support industrial production as a backbone of economic growth. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, the approach to boosting local industrial base is driven through the localization initiative, which is anchored on a sectoral master plan in targeted sectors such as automotive, steel, chemical, agro-industry, and green technologies. According to the MTDP, the review report, notable progress has been made made through sector master plan as follows. 1, 44.2 billion investment secured between April and September 2025. 2, a pipeline of 15 battery mineral projects valued at 40 billion rand. 3, a 4.2 billion BMW investment linked to plan in hybrid electrical vehicle production. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, as the ANC is a fact and a reality that we inherited a country that was deliberately segregated socially, economically, and spatially. The fundamental task of eliminating the core and peripheral distortion requires deliberate and careful planning as a way to ensure geographically balanced economy activity. To this end, the objective remains leveraging special economic zones as a catalyst of investment, utilizing the new model derived from the spatial industrial development strategy. And indeed, President, we can confirm that the economic zones such as Uga, Dube, Tradeport and Tshwane Automotive SEZ have created approximately 27,000 direct jobs focusing on manufacturing, automotive and logistics. Yes, indeed, these figures are not enough because of unemployment that is very high in our country. But this is the work in progress. And these figures suggest to say, Honorable President and your cabinet, you are really to account to the people of South Africa, and we are happy as the ANC with that accountability.
Was this your perfect wedding?
In terms of supporting tourism sector, we must highlight that the tourism performance continue to demonstrate resilience and versatility. 7.6 million international arrivals recorded between January and September 2025. Hotel occupancy. High five to the Department of Tourism led by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The crown, this achievement is your speech, Honorable President. You highlighted a further milestone when you recognize that our tourism sector made history last year, recording the arrival of 10.5 million visitors. These are the figures that also translate the work in progress. Ilenete Mohlomphehi Ramaphosa le kabinete ya hao. Terene ena ya Romana e a tsamaya. Ha e ka ba ya tloha e eme from 2018. Le ha jwale e santse e tsamaya. Tshwara jwalo ntate Ramaphosa le kabinete ya hao re a le bona. In conclusion, Honorable President, I wish to reaffirm your statement that yes, we have indeed turned a corner. Now we must look ahead and move with speed. Certainly our economic prospects are less gloomy as it was the case in previous years. And now we are on the path of recovery. Forward ever, backwards never. Hai le ditsebe ntate Ramaphosa tsona o na le tsona tse mamelang. Hai le mahlo ona o na le ona a bonang. Ha se mahlo a hao fela ke mahlo a kabinete eo o e kgethileng. Mme re a leboha ka matona o re fileng ona re tlo tswela pele dikomiting tsa palamente re ntse re le bitsa re tlo le hold accountable so that batho ba Afrika Borwa ba kgone ho bona hore mesebetsi yona e etsahala diphetoho di atla maphelong a bona. Re le African National Congress re motlotlo haholo ka di-partners tsohle tsa GNU le ba kantle ho GNU hoba ha ine se ka bona ba ntse ba re hweletsa ne re ke ra tisa jwale re tlo tisa ho feta ha ba ntse ba re hweletsa mme re a leboha ba nne ba re hweletse amandla.
Where's your husband? Perfect wedding.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The next Honorable Member to participate is Honorable Dr. Malatsi.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Greeting to the President and the Deputy President. Greetings to the former President. Otto, Ma-Afrika. Otto. The 2026 State of the Nation address delivered by the President continue along the same economic path adopted since 2019. These so-called structural reforms, supported by institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, they promote liberalization and greater private sector involvement in public infrastructure. In simple terms, this means opening key public sectors, electricity, railway, ports, and water to private profit-making interests. Through programs like Operation Vulindlela, government is advancing reform that shift the state away from direct control towards regulating private capital. But the question we must ask is very simple. Who benefits? Between 2015 and 2024, our economy grew at less than 1% per year. Expanded unemployment stand at over 42%. Between 10 to 12 million South Africans without work. Inequality remains extreme, yet policy directions continue to favor private accumulation. While the share of national income is going to workers' decline, we cannot regulate our way out of poverty while opening strategic infrastructure to profit-driven interest. On crime, the President rightly acknowledged its seriousness and supported the deployment of military to assist the police as advised by the UAT. However, crime is not just policing issue. It is rooted in unemployment, inequality, and economic exclusion. Without addressing structural drivers of poverty, crime will persist. It is also surprising that President speaks strongly about corruption and crime prevention without directly addressing the unresolved concerns surrounding Phala Saka. When a head of state calls for accountability, transparency must begin at the highest office. Public trust cannot be rebuilt selectively. Ethical leadership requires openness and full disclosure of what has been raised serious national and international concern. South Africa cannot continue stagnation, deindustrialization, and austerity while hoping for different results. The vision of the Freedom Charter, public ownership on monopoly industry for the benefit of the people, remain relevant today. Strategic sector must serve the national development, not private enrichment. We need strong development state, capable public institution, industrialization, ownership and control of the land, quality education, accessible to healthcare, and real accountability.
Thank you. The next person to participate in this debate is Honorable Mslongo.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Chair, I'd like for us to wait for the President because I do have some direct words for him and I don't want him to miss those words.
No, Honorable Member, we cannot wait. You have your time. Please speak.
Okay, nizongitshelela kubaba wenu ukuthi wazoyikhuluma inganekwane. This is from KwaMashu eSiqangawini. Mangisukuma la angizile ukuzokhuluma about lena unemployment enithi na niqasha abantu. Wabaphi laba abantu enibaqashile? Abantu nibakhulula ngokuthi ke nibalide ngefear, nibasabise ukuthi ke nama ukuthi ke nabayenza intando yenu nizothatha konke kubona. Yes. I-ANC ikhulula abantu ngokuthi ibanikeze i-dependency syndrome.
I-syndrome ibulala umhlaba wethu. Abantu bakithi nibakhulisa kanjani ningabanika amandla abo. Nisitshela inganekwane. Ake sikhulume lana kuma-foreign nationals, over 3,240 jobs occupied by foreign nationals ka-education. Yet i-GNU ithi ke ni-prioritize ama-South Africans. 3,240 families abahleli abanganayo imisebenzi ngenxa yenu. Kodwa nithi ke nani khulisa umnotho. Inganekwane. Ake sikhulume ngogogo bethu, ogogo bethu abasikhulisile. Nonke nihleli laba nikhulisile nani. Bathenga imithi, bathenga ukudla, bakhokhela ogesi, kodwa nibanikeza u-2,200. Inganekwane. CMK sithi ayinyuke le mali 5,240. Angithi i-president uthe uno-40 trillion womnotho awuma-minerals. Sizoyithatha lapha imali. Angithi uready ukulanda amasosha, ungasitsheli ngenganekwane. Khona nithena niney'kole niyayinakekela. Niye naya kwaMashu ku-special school. Niye nabona ukuthi 50% of those children, they don't attend school because of infrastructure. Nisitshela ngenganekwane. Odade bethu babeletha emabhedlela phansi on the floor. E-Eastern Cape nase-Western Cape. Nisitshela ngenganekwane. Siphelile isikhathi senu. Siphelile ukuthi nisibuse. Umnotho uyabuya uza kumuntu omnyama. Akekho umuntu omnyama lapha e-Western Cape. Ba-toiletha kuphi? Niba-associate noThuvi. Abantu bakithi ba-associate noThuvi e-Western Cape. Nithi banika i-civilization ngoThuvi. Umuntu wakithi alale noThuvi, adle noThuvi. Yini leyo? Ukusiphatha lokho inganekwane. Ngithi kwena Ncamalala ngiyabonga ukuthi ube yiqhawe wasukuma, wayibona igate wayivala. Ngithi Ncamalala siyabonga.
Thank you, Honorable
Just
Member.
erase black people of Western Cape.
I call upon the next member to participate in this debate, the Honorable Sangoni.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, honorable
Honorable
members.
House Chair. Your Excellencies President Cyril Ramaphosa, Deputy President Paul Mashatile, honorable members, fellow South Africans. As the President said, South Africa stands at a defining point of economic renewal. There's been 4 consecutive quarters of economic growth, lowest unemployment figure in 5 years, and inflation at its lowest in the last 20 years. Our country is demonstrating that deliberate policy action produces tangible results. Comrade President, it was our founding father of our democracy, Nelson Mandela, who reminded us that after climbing a great hill, one only finds there are many more hills to climb. The State of the Nation address presented by the President last week was such a moment. It was a time to pause and reflect on the road traveled since 2018, when President Ramaphosa took office, to appreciate the achievements that had made, which at some point seemed impossible, and to confront with honesty and resolve the hills that still lie ahead. The successes outlined in the SONA were not accidents of history. Honorable Steenhuisen, we must also tell no lies and claim no easy victories. These successes reported by the President predate the GNU, and they are the result of deliberate action by the latter part of the 5th, 6th, and now 7th administration to reverse decline, restore institutions, and once again relay the foundations for inclusive growth. Today, South Africa stands on firmer ground than it did a few years ago. Yet, as Madiba warned us, we dare not linger. The question before us is how to sustain this economic growth to ensure it reaches every corner of our nation. Millions of our people still live with poverty, unemployment, and inequality. For them, the promise of democracy must be felt not in speeches, but in daily lives. So, Comrade President, therefore, you dare not linger. The long walk has not ended. We must position technology, the digital economy, and digital infrastructure investment as the primary drivers of inclusive and equitable economic growth. The urgency of implementation cannot be overstated. We have seen in word and in deed what focused reform and decisive leadership can achieve. The African National Congress acknowledges and welcomes real progress. High demand auction spectrum that raised 14.4 billion rand, Last year, Telkom generated more than 500 million to the fiscus in dividends. Mobile data prices have declined by over 50% between 2019 and 2023, easing costs for working families. 4G coverage now reaches over 98% of the population, and 5G is expanding. Thousands of public facilities, schools, clinics, government offices are connected through the SA Connect broadband program. These offer, Honorable Reddy, real solutions to unemployment, not the MK type of sending poor young children to be killed in the killing fields of Ukraine and calling it job creation. More than 50 data centers have been built and 50 billion in digital infrastructure strengthened. We support the commitment to fully digitize government services. We commend the work done by former Minister of Home Affairs, Honorable Motsoaledi, to roll out digital reforms at Home Affairs, including digital ID, as well as initiatives such as proposed in Operation Vulindlela's digital transformation roadmap and CETA's My Mzansi apps. These are not mere technical upgrades. They are instruments of dignity, efficiency, and economic participation. Parliament has also, through rigorous oversight, pushed regulatory reforms that ensure that data does not expire, but rather mandate rollover of unused data bundles. This is a victory that this Parliament fully owns, aligned with the call that data must fall and a tangible intervention in the cost of living. SONA underscored the transformative role of artificial intelligence and data analytics in strengthening governance, improving service delivery, and combating illicit economic activity. We must move with urgency. The global AI race is accelerating, and South Africa must be a rule maker, not a real taker. Our greatest risk is not a lack of vision, it's fragmentation. We must move beyond scattered initiatives towards a single coherent national digital strategy. Madam Speaker, South Africa has chosen the path of a developmental state. That's a state that does not retreat from the economy, but actively shapes it in the public interest. No nation has ever built a successful digital economy by abandoning its strategic capabilities. Countries that lead in connectivity do so through deliberate alignment between the state and industry. So South Africa, like China, must show the same resolve in strengthening our state-owned entities in the technology and communication space. Our state-owned entities such as Telkom, Sentech, Broadband, and Fraco are not relics. They are instruments of transformation. With proper governance, adequate and committed investment, they can advance broad-based economic empowerment, affordable connectivity, and support national data sovereignty and local innovation. These companies must be at the center of our country's digital industrial policy. This we must do by building and owning sovereign technology, whether it is satellites or strengthening local cloud and hosting capacity. We must protect people and their data, deal with online harms, including cyberbullying, the invasion of deepfakes, misinformation, and disinformation. We must introduce fair taxation of digital multinationals and regulate social and online media, including podcasts. This is not about ideology, it's about equity. Honorable Mulder, the African National Congress will not retreat on BBBE, NHI, or land expropriation under the law. When we speak about equity, we do not speak about sameness, we speak of justice. Equality assumes that all begin from the same starting line, while equity recognizes the deep structural imbalances created by centuries of colonial oppression and apartheid oppression. So for you to call for equal treatment in a profoundly unequal society is to ignore history and deny lived reality. We do not seek benevolence from any group, nor do we seek permission to govern or succeed. The democratic mandate on this country rests with its people as a whole. The Freedom Front Plus, by its own posture and policy positions, continues to foreground the protection of historic privilege rather than dismantling structural inequality. One cannot credibly invoke unity while resisting the symbolic and material steps that this government is taking to build national shared unity. The rejection of the renaming of Graaff-Reinet.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sangoni. Your time has expired.
Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you. The next member to participate is Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable President, Deputy President, former President Jacob Zuma. The tone set by a President in the State of the Nation address is an honest tone, reflection of where we are as a country. There are real green shoots. Amongst others, our country is being removed from the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force. We have moved beyond the era of debilitating load shedding. That progress did not happen by accident. It required focus, reform, and collaboration between government and the private sector. As the government of national unity, we must take collective credit for the progress that we've made. Equally, we must take collective responsibility where challenges remain. That is the balance that will build trust in our country. While we are seeing an uptick in economic growth, job creation remains our most urgent task. It is the first priority of the GNU to drive inclusive growth and create jobs. That responsibility rests not only with government, but with business, labor, and every sector of our society. We therefore welcome the announcement that the SRD grant will be redesigned to move effectively to support livelihoods, skills development, work opportunities, and productive activity. This evolution is important. However, social protection must go hand in hand with reducing the cost of living. It's not enough to provide support if the rising cost erodes its value. In South Africa, we do not have a shortage of food. We have a problem of access and affordability. The cost of basic goods remains too high for too many households. When we speak of economic reform, we must also speak of ensuring that each rand stretches further and that more South Africans go to bed with food on their table. Mr. President, as a former mayor that was leading a city on drought, we welcome the newly established task team, but the center of the role of responsibilities must be municipalities and provinces. Local government is responsible for water reticulation, and it understands the realities of infrastructure of the ground. Between 30 to 40% of our potable water is lost through pipe leaks. However, Mr. President, within this challenge lies an opportunity to employ and train young people to detect and repair water leaks in our communities, an opportunity to strengthen municipal systems, build technical skills now that serve communities long into the future. But let me end with a positive note. To the people of South Africa, Mzansi, I want to say thank you, Nkosi kakhulu, baie dankie. Your warmth and hospitality define how the world experiences our country. The record 10.5 million international arrivals we achieved is no coincidence also. It is the result of deliberate work by government, the private sector, and by ordinary South Africans who welcome visitors to our country with pride. That spirit.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Your time has expired.
In the future, I thank
you. The next honourable member to participate is Honourable Billy.
Deputy Chair, Mr. President, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members and fellow South Africans. Mr. President, on the 19th of July 2024, I stood in this House to respond to your first State of the Nation address after the formation of the Government of National Unity. For the first time in our democratic history,
cabinet was not made up of one party alone. It included leaders from across the political spectrum, including my party, the Democratic Alliance. That moment represented something new. It represented maturity, accountability, and above all, it represented hope. In that address, Mr. President, you made commitments on behalf of the government of national unity. You said, and I quote, that to tackle crime and corruption, we must have a capable, sophisticated, and independent law enforcement agencies that can fix complex and organized crime. You said your government will deploy modern technology in crime fighting. You said a data-driven approach would identify violent crime hotspots and guide the allocation of policing resources. You said specialized police units would tackle illegal mining, gang violence, cash and transit heist, and the construction mafia, unquote. Mr. President, the reality today is that these commitments have not materialized at ground level. There is no visible modern technological transformation in our police stations. The body-worn cameras that were meant to be rolled out in April 2024 remain a promise on paper. Former Minister Bheki Cele promised them, but he failed to deliver. Minister Mchunu did the same, promised this parliament that body-worn cameras were coming, but again, he failed. Meanwhile, good policemen and women are being killed in the line of duty, including suspects. In KwaZulu-Natal alone, an average of 8 suspects are being killed by the police every week. The situation is volatile, dangerous, and unsustainable. There is no meaningful data-driven policing that communities can see on the ground. Instead, what we are seeing, Mr. President, is depletion. And this is not theory, this is oversight. Giving powers to competent local and provincial governments within constitutional bounds. This is the only real long-term solution to the problem, Mr. President. And this view is supported by the South African Police Service in KwaZulu-Natal. At a recent oversight meeting with the said leadership and the Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant Konazi, were informed that the police were severely undercapacitated. He cited among some of the things that there were insufficient police vehicles, that there were shortages of officers. He said there were about 20,000 officers in the province to keep safe about 12 million people in the province. He said that there were stations that were not operating for 24 hours. There were shortages of bulletproof vests. There were outdated ICT systems. And more importantly, there were also insufficient two-way radios. Mr. President, honorable members, these are not sudden problems. These are systemic failures that developed over years because of neglect, poor management, and political protection of incompetence. These failures, Mr. President, were preventable. At another oversight engagement in Simonstown with the NCOP Select Committee on Security and Justice, we heard the Chief of the South African Navy, Admiral Monde Lubisi, speak openly about years of underfunding that have brought our Navy close to collapse. It was uncomfortable. It was embarrassing to hear that we have reached a point where we struggle to patrol our own waters. Instead of confronting that reality publicly, the meeting, Mr. President, was abruptly converted into a closed session. But Lubisi was not embarrassing the country. He was crying for help. He believed Parliament was his refuge. We must not wait for good public servants to go public, Mr. President, before we act. We must not respond with another commission. We must respond with action immediately when these things come up. Recently, at the South African Defence Force headquarters in Bloemfontein, again, senior generals detailed the consequences of the continuous defunding of our army. They spoke about domestic operational decisive action against gangs and this intervention is welcomed. But Mr. President, how do we deploy a force that itself is limping? How do we deploy an army that has been systematically weakened? Mr. President, this is not a sudden crisis. It is a result of executive failure. It is a result of years of shielding underperforming ministers. It is a result of a culture where accountability was postponed. We're launching criminal justice reform initiatives in the presidency before reverting SAP's leadership, before recruiting additional officers, before deploying the South African Defence Force. Mr. President, we acknowledge that many of these failures are man-made. Do you acknowledge that they stem from political appointments and executive inaction? Are you prepared to say to South Africans, we failed? We failed to act sooner. We protected the wrong people. We allowed decline. Mr. President, I'm afraid South Africans do not want more task teams. They want consequences. They want ministers removed when they fail. They want political accountability, not golden handshakes. They want competence rewarded and incompetence dismissed. Let me say this clearly, Mr. President. The DA ministers serving in the GNU are working. They are stabilizing portfolios. They are restoring governance. They are correcting years of neglect. They are proving that accountability and delivery can coexist. The GNU will only succeed if accountability is applied equally, not selectively, not politically. And if you are serious about the criminal justice reform, Mr. President, reform must begin at the executive level. If you are serious about fighting corruption, those implicated must not be recycled. If you are serious about restoring public trust, there must be visible consequences. South Africans are tired of promises. They are tired of commissions that lead nowhere. They are tired of being told that reform is coming. They want to feel safe. They want police that are equipped. They want soldiers who are supported. They want a justice system that convicts criminals. Above all, Mr. President, they want a leadership that takes responsibility and that is decisive.
Thank you very
This
much,
new
Honorable
headline
Member.
of
Your
democracy
time has
demands
expired.
courage. Thank you.
Thank you. The next Honorable Member is Honorable Mikalakis.
Deputy Chairperson, Mr. President, before I start my speech, may I remark on what a smart blue tie you were wearing on Thursday night. And yours was properly made, unlike the leaders of some popcorn parties' ties. Whether deliberately or not, Mr. President, that tie reflected the highlights of your speech. From the news that the economy is growing under the GNU as opposed to years of decline, to the best matric pass rate under Minister Khwarube, the state property company that we're looking forward to taking shape under Minister McPherson, the innovation in digitization of personal documents like IDs, driver's licenses, matric certificates under Ministers Schreiber and Malatsi, and the declaration of a state of disaster for foot and mouth disease, as Minister Steenhuisen called for in January, but also the more than 10,000 extension officers to support farmers. This year marks the year of a municipal election, where water will be a central theme. It's funny, Mr. President, that you told the one minister who lives to dress up for Sona that she should rather be in Gauteng to sort out the water. Despite this, for the Premier there, to paraphrase my colleague Honorable Burke, the penny must still drop. For him, the solution to the water crisis is to shower at a hotel. May he be rewarded with a golden shower at the ballot box for such a stupid comment, because it is clearly only at the ballot box where solutions can be found. The Premier should not apologize for not being here. He should apologize for his blatant arrogance towards the people of Gauteng. Then there's the official opposition, a party that summonses a chief whip from the NCOP because the handful of members on the NA benches who have not yet been tried are clearly not trusted. I think it is safe to say that the chief whip of the opposition will never be ready or able. Seeing as though the MK and the EFF are so keen on acknowledging the convicts in the gallery, may I send my regards. Maybe we should ask them to stand again so that the police can see them clearly. At least the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture served his full term. Mr. Malema has suddenly become very passionate about water provision. How are the communities affected by the Giyani water project doing, Honorable Malema? Are their taps still dry? Did you not benefit from the looting of that project? The MK, the EFF, the PA, UDM, Al Jamar, Rise, Good, UAT, Action SA, the ACDP, BOSA, and the NCC have not had a single leadership change ever. They are built around single personalities, often without personality, with sidekicks or those that the DA did not want anymore. I'm surprised the EFF let me finish my sentence. I only wonder if their leader will finish his sentence. As for Honorable Trollip, speaking of despotic regimes, I want to remind him of his own party's culture of internal elections and democracy. When you do one day have that conference to elect someone slightly more stable, less xenophobic, we hope you will realize that votes are not the same as likes on X. You cannot buy them. But Mr. President, our focus should not be on the opposition. They are essentially a waste of time and offer no alternative. Our focus should be to deliver better lives for South Africans than they had for the last 30 years of democracy. Therefore, I think it was fitting that you started your speech with the economic wins of these past 2 years since the coalition replaced ANC majority rule. A decline in inflation, a stronger rand, stabilizing government debt, a stronger JSE, the prospects of a growing economy. But Mr. President, an economy shackled by BEE and cadre deployment is not going to reach the 3% growth that you dream of, sir. 35.8% of Black South Africans are unemployed. Almost 30 million Black South Africans are living in poverty. Yet 1 trillion rand was shifted to fewer than 100 people since 1994 through BEE. These are the facts. One thing I hope we can agree on is that this is not acceptable. And that if there is an alternative on the table that will offer the 30 million Black South Africans an opportunity into work without having to label people according to their race, like the apartheid government did, why would we not at
Honourable
least...
member, can you take your seat? I see a hand. Honourable Nzimande.
No, thanks, Deputy Slalo. Cela umkhuze lo wakhafulwa ulwandle ukuthi in terms of Rule 63 akayeke ungahloniphi, akayeke ukuthi i-ex-convict iya-recognizwa, uyachwenza. Ngicela umkhuze.
Sorry, Honourable Slavini, that's not a rule that you can stand on.
Yebo, uyayibreach.
Thank you very much. Honourable
But it's not
Nicolaitis,
a common
please continue.
Thank you. Thank you, House Chairperson. The rules also say that you need to actually raise the point of order when it occurs. No wonder they have to import chief whips. Because without truly relieving the economy of what holds us back, Mr. President, your SONA speech will be like a water tap in Johannesburg. One looks at it and one has hopes, only to be met by dololo actual delivery. Mr. President, I do hope that this year will be a continuation of the growth path that the country has now taken. But I also hope that it will be the beginning of us taking unemployment seriously and getting rid of bad policies that are holding the economy back, so that we can truly address the injustices of the past and create an open society with opportunities for everyone who live in it. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now go and sort out your Uber
I'll
Eats
call upon the
delinquent.
Honourable Minister of Higher Education and Training.
Honorable President, it's been a minute. And the last time I was here, there were 19 young people who were stuck in Ukraine. And because of your leadership, they're coming back home. And whilst we're at it, President, I want to congratulate the Honorable Desmond Royan whom I once played tennis with. And the last time the former president Zuma gave him a task as Minister of Finance, it was merely a weekend special, then followed by a brief one-night stand as MK party chief whip.
Thank you, honorable member.
Although your opposition
Honorable members, let's not drown the speaker.
is about as unreliable as your backhand.
Honorable
in
Minister,
tennis,
can you take your seat? I see a hand. Honorable Minister, take your seat, please. I see a hand. Yes, honorable member.
Ngiyabonga Deputy Sihlalo. Bengicela ukubuza ukuthi uMinister engakwazi nokuthatha umbuzo. Abafundi abarejistile ingane ayidlile uNSFAS ngama-issues.
Minister,
Akakhulume nge-higher education.
all right, I did hear you. Thank you.
Please. Yeah, bengicela
Honorable
ukubuza
Minister,
nje
would you
umbuzo.
take a question? Would you take a question?
So although your opposition, Honorable Van Rooyen, politics is about as unreliable as your backhand in tennis, they're still better than those of Honorable Judge Tope. And long may your opening for the debate of the MK party last long. But also the last time I spoke here, President, Minister Steenhuisen.
Honorable Minister, can you take your seat? I see another hand.
Honorable Speaker, I'm not sure what language this minister is using. He's speaking with a twang.
Now
And
let's hear what
He
what
needs
your
to be
comment.
clear so we can
You
understand.
speaking with a
I can't
twang.
pick up his twanging. Please stop the twanging.
You
Speaking
Sorry,
with proper
yeah.
English.
Sorry, honorable Minister, please continue.
Well, you can't pick up anything. You can't pick up anything politics or intelligent anyway. So you're saving yourself. And so I was saying that Honorable John, Minister Steenhuisen was simply Honorable John Steenhuisen, cooking for himself delicious, healthy meals and minding his own business.
Honorable Minister, can
And
you
today
take your seat,
full
please? I see
running around
another
the
hand.
country dealing with
Honorable
food
Minister.
and mouth disease.
Honorable Minister, can you take your seat? I see another hand. Yes, honorable member.
Ngikuthokoze mgcini sihlalo. Ngikuthokoza kwamambala into engizoyibuza ukuthi angicabanga ukuthi umthetho weParliamenteni uyavuma ukuthi uDeputy or uMinister lo okhona osekanguMinister ezangakakami la akayokama ngoba into ayikhuluma nje ayisirehe.
Thank you, honorable member. Thank you, honorable Minister. Please continue.
Looks like it's going to be a long night. But as I said, that, and I agree with Minister Steenhuisen, that with all the things that have been happening in our country, we cannot afford complacency. And that through the leadership of the ANC in the GNU, and to quote an old friend of mine, I can see Honorable John Steenhuisen, that you are cruising very nicely. You may claim the easy victories, which Honorable Hill Bill here came to reject, but we will allow that as long as you do not season them or pepper them with lies, because for us, the GNU is not about ministers competing, but about submitting to the collective responsibility of government. This is your government too. And unlike the Freedom Front and some from your bench, Honorable Steenhuisen, who keep one foot in the GNU and another ready to skip when things get difficult, you are within your rights to claim its victories. This is the nature of politics in South Africa. It's fluid, it's dramatic, but it's also occasionally, if you listen to the honorable leader of the EFF, who seem uncertain whether he wants to kiss the president or to kill the president. Politics can be very confusing. What must not be confusing, however, is the difference between noise and work, between performance and governance, between slogans and solutions, and between sophistry and action. It is from that standpoint that I rise to support the state of the nation that you delivered, President, grounded not in sophistry, but in action, coordination, and delivery. Let me begin where the pain is real and immediate. On the evening of the State of the Nation address, I left the chamber not to rush to television studios or to issue press statements, but to meet students from CPUT who were protesting outside Parliament about the quality of their accommodation. They were anxious, angry, exhausted, but also very uncertain. And working together with the police, student leaders, and university management, were informed that the last of those students will walk into better beds tomorrow. We've also been in contact this morning with vice chancellors of UCT and DUT, who have committed that the protests that are happening on their campuses, which are very peaceful, I must say, will be concluded as soon as possible. Our department, together with students' organizations, vice chancellors and college principals, are working around the clock to ensure that no student is left behind. So when some ask, where is government? The answer is simple. Sometimes government is not on social media, Honorable Lonzi. Sometimes government is in the corridor at midnight fixing problems. Student accommodation remains one of the most urgent challenges in the post-school system. We face a shortfall of 200,000 beds, and we will not resolve this challenge only with bricks and mortar. And that's why we're expanding access through a combination of fiscal infrastructure and digital expansion. Many universities are already rolling out digital and blended programs, and this work must accelerate, and similarly plans are afoot to digitize CET and TVET curricula through the national online system so that we can meet the demand of our success in the grade 12 cohort. At the same time, we must significantly improve the quality of distance education, particularly at UNISA, whose more than 350,000 students are the backbone of our post-school education and training system. Our universities are under pressure, but we're working hard to ensure that we resolve this crisis. But also your instruction, President, that we must build specialized universities, including, of course, the much spoken about University of Ekurhuleni, whom we will ensure that we accelerate. Your instruction also around the transformation that needs to happen as it regards to sector education and training authorities will be taken forward, and we will work with NEDLAC to ensure that your instruction that 40% of mandatory grant to employers will be fast-tracked. And similarly, your instruction on TVET colleges remains unambiguous. Occupational trades leading to employment, modern workshops in partnerships with industry, quality lecturers, and effective workplace integrated learning must define the future of TVET. We will mobilize all resources, partnerships, and energy towards full implementation of the dual system, President, that we instructed about. As Clement of Alexandria observed, Honorable Des van Rooyen, sophistry is a powerful art that makes false opinion appear true only in words. When rhetoric is not guided by philosophy or action, it becomes dangerous to all. And yours, Honorable van Rooyen, is dangerous sophistry. Discrediting the president's intent while opposing the practical step taken to realize it without solution is sophistry. Sophistry is declaring that your party has readiness to govern while failing to govern itself. How does a party without a constitution propose to govern a constitutional democracy? Sophistry, with MPs coming in and out weekly, and with Parliament constantly introducing itself to new MK party members. How is stability assured? As a party where relatives substitute for one another like royalty, batteries to the remote control are always fully charged. And I can see there was a shaky connection between Kandla and here. The former president decided to come here. I MK, whether they're pushing the line that he wants or not. But how do you govern a country when you cannot even be a credible opposition? President, coordination is not incompetence. You've been accused that you are planning. You've been accused.
Honorable Minister, can you take your seat? I see your hand.
Of all of these things. But the important thing
Honorable
is that
Minister, can you take your seat,
we've
please?
seen it work.
Honorable Minister, take your seat. Yes, Honorable Member.
Ngithokoze Mgcinisihlalo, bengibuza ukuthi ungqongqoshe angawuthatha umbuzo ngoba usakhuluma inganekwane.
Honorable Minister, would you take a question?
No. No, you can give the question to Honorable Manyi before he moves over to the EFF or to ATL.
Honorable Minister, I see another hand. Could you take your seat?
Traveling quite a lot.
Honorable Minister,
recently.
I see another hand. Could you take your seat, please?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The minister is so busy reading that speech.
No,
He's making.
ask,
No.
ask what you want to ask, please.
Yeah. No, I'm not asking a question. His point about Nkandla has got nothing to do. with
No,
what
you
he
can
said.
raise that in your debate.
He needs
That
to
is a
stick to the
debatable
topic.
point, Honorable Reddy. You can
Debate.
raise that when your member gets a chance tomorrow to speak. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you.
Sorry, Honorable Minister, there's another hand. Could you take your seat, please?
Ngibingelele ngokukhulu ukuhlonipha nje ungqongqoshe ome ngaphambili. Sicabanga ukuthi sonke eSouth Africa siyazi ukuthi iGNU ifomeke
No, but this is free for us. This is free
No,
for us.
no,
Point
that's
of
not a
order.
game.
Can't out of
Thank you very much.
amavoti.
Thank you.
Komkhonto wesizwe
Thank you, Honorable Member. You are out of order. Honorable Member. Honorable Minister, please continue.
I think they're still hungover and preparing for the loss they're going to suffer in the local government election. They're filling in a protest next election. And as I said, President, coordination is not incompetence. Planning is not paralysis. And shouting is not governance. Some believe that if their shouts, their sophistry loud enough, reality will surrender. But they blame you for believing in boring things, in plans, in budgets, in engineering, in timelines, and also in work being done. President, they say you presented dreams and promises. You may be constrained by resources, but we should never allow a situation wherein our ambition is constrained. Yes, we're nearing, you may be nearing you may be on the 8th year of your 2 years and have committed to do certain things within that period. But we should not fall into the trap of believing that because at some point there was a lack of resources, therefore those things will not happen. And that even if we fail in building new cities and in connecting people through speed trains or the vision that you hold dearly of making the life of every South African better, we will never be blamed for being ambitious. And as some are interested in noise, we are interested in progress. Let me tell you, before we leave this podium, that some years in this house are too small for complexity, for patience, and for hard work. But governing a country, unlike playing tennis, requires all three: complexity, patience, and work, which is the work that you've shown over the time. Thank you very much, President.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. Could you please take your seats? Take your seats, honorable members. Honorable Speaker, that brings us to the close of the debate for today. I want to thank the Honorable President, the Honorable Deputy President. I want to thank all the honorable members that participated from the podium, as well as those who participated from their seats, for maintaining the dignity of the House and for making this a lively debate. Honorable members, that brings us to the close of the debate, and this concludes the business of the day. The joint sitting starts adjourned.
21 years.
MK. Sina saba na matse. 1 years of patience.
Viva! Viva! What happened? Viva!
Yeah, Papa NC. Samba na matse.